Seriously, though. Please? 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 There's this little thing at the top left called a mini-map. 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 Look up! Where are you going? I'm right here! What are you doing? I'm right... Hi! Woo! Alright.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel, and the clip you guys saw at the beginning of the video was posted to Twitter by Exclusive Ace. What Ace is doing is he's using a second account to test skill-based matchmaking within Black Ops Cold War, and it turns out that if your stats are bad enough, you end up in lobbies like that, where players literally have no idea what's going on, or even how the game works. Skill-based matchmaking is a topic I've discussed countless times here on the channel. It goes by many names. Some people call it skill-based matchmaking, other people call it performance-based matchmaking, some call it monetized matchmaking because of the patent that Activision owns, where the more money you spend in-game, the easier your lobbies will be because they want bad players to see good players using items they paid for. The list goes on and on. You guys know all about this by now, but the thing about skill-based matchmaking is no matter what I say in this video, no matter how many rage tweets are posted, no matter what we do, it isn't going anywhere. From a fundamental level, skill-based matchmaking is designed to appease a whole new generation of gamer. The kind of gamer who is just entering the scene, like people ages 8 to 13, or even the older gamer who's adjusting to the newer era of first-person shooters. Skill-based matchmaking exists solely to make the entry experience into the franchise a much easier experience for lower-skilled players, because if they have a good initial experience with the franchise, they are more likely to continue playing, they're more likely to perhaps drop some money on battle passes or microtransactions, and they're also more likely to potentially buy the next Call of Duty game whenever that comes out. Annual release cycles and such, you guys know how that goes. Another aspect of skill-based matchmaking that I think a lot of people tend to ignore is if you're an average to above average player, you are competing within a sea of other similar skilled players. Whereas back in the day, it seemed like only a small percentage of the player base were actually really good. I would argue that these days, the vast majority of the Call of Duty player base is pretty good. Right? The overall average skill of the COD player base is incredibly higher here in 2020 than it was, say, back in 2010. Call of Duty has been around forever, and despite each game having different maps and different mechanics and different themes, Call of Duty is still, at its core, the same. Right? You have your gun. They have their gun. There may be some bombs to plant or flags to capture, but the goal is kill the other team, right? It's a pretty basic game if you really boil it down, and it's released annually for years now, 13 years in fact. This means that at some point, if you're a gamer, chances are you have invested a decent amount of time into at least one Call of Duty game, and chances are you've also become pretty competent at that Call of Duty game, and those skills translate over year after year after year. I think the issue is also a cultural one. The world we live in now is much different than the world I was living in when I first started playing Call of Duty back in 2007, with Call of Duty 4. Back then, 1,000 subscribers on YouTube was a big deal. There were literally 2 handfuls of creators on YouTube that had any success whatsoever, and Call of Duty itself was basically one giant mystery. What was the best gun back in Call of Duty 4? Well, back then, we didn't know. These days, M16, MP5, P90, it's all very basic. We know this stuff, but back then, we had no idea. That double tap M4 seems pretty cool. That's what I was using. Back then, what was the best way to take down an attack helicopter? Nowadays, we know. A single RPG with an ACOG M40 shot, or potentially using an RPD. One of those two things, right? But back then, we had no idea. We would just kind of shoot at it, or oftentimes not shoot at it. That's just kind of what we did, right? We had no idea what was going on back then. All we knew was that Blue Tiger looked pretty damn cool, and having more kills and deaths meant that you were a god to the friends that you were playing with. These days, the world is so much different. Children are being raised with phones and tablets and computers and Xboxes and PlayStations, and that's not a bad thing in my opinion. It's just the natural progression of technology. Whereas my parents grew up with sticks out in the woods and rabbit ear television sets that had 2 channels, I grew up with satellite television and a Game Boy Color, then eventually a Sega Genesis, and then a PlayStation 1 and a PlayStation 2. I didn't even have an internet connection in my life until I was 13 years old, but even then, the childhood that I had was still wildly different to the childhood that my parents had. Kids nowadays are growing up with so much technology around them, and a lot of them have been watching YouTube YouTube for years now. I remember back when I was in the dating scene, I would be embarrassed to tell people that I did YouTube for a living because I didn't think they would get it. I thought they would think I was a nerd, right? But turned out the reality was I am a nerd, but also everybody watches YouTube these days. Like, everyone watches it and everybody knows how it works, and they also understand that it can indeed be a stable career path with enough time and enough dedication. That's what I believe caused the skill curve of Call of Duty to be changed so drastically. Back in the day, we were growing up wanting to be teachers. That's what I wanted to do anyway. I wanted to be a teacher, and other people wanted to be electricians or mechanics or have any other traditional quote-unquote job. But now, ask a kid what they want to be these days. Literally ask like any kid. They want to be a YouTuber, right? Even older people, like, people in their teens and people like just getting out of high school. What do they want to do with their lives? If they could choose anything to do with their lives, what would they do? A lot of people are going to say YouTube or Twitch, right? That's what people want to do. It's because gaming is their hobby. Gaming is their passion. And the idea of making their hobby / passion their career is really appealing, right? That's the most appealing thing in the world, so they grind towards it. The reality is, most people don't make it, and that's not my facetious way of saying that I'm amazing at what I do. That's just my realistic take on the state of the YouTube and the Twitch scene. I am on the very lower end of successful when it comes to this thing, right? And I've been grinding away at this for a decade. I had a few channels before I made NerosCinema, but NerosCinema was the first channel that I really took seriously, and it was in 2011 that I finally started gaining enough traction on YouTube with Modern Warfare 3 that I was making as much money as I was unloading a truck from Walmart. That was my job before this, by the way. I unloaded trucks at Walmart, and once my paycheck from YouTube got to be the same as my paycheck from Walmart, I thought, you know what, let's make a real run at this, and then I did. I never really looked back. I've always been here on YouTube. I've been making so many videos. Now, while yes, I have put the time in, and I've uploaded, like I just mentioned, something close to 5,000 videos here on YouTube, I would say that a big part of what success I have comes from the fact that I got in so early. Think about that for a second. Where were you back in 2011? I mean, some of you were in high school, some in college, maybe some out in the real world, but I'd wager that a lot of you were in middle school or maybe even younger, right? I've been grinding away at this thing for so long, and I feel like the reason why I have any success and the reason why I can continue to do this every day is because I'm basically a comfortable old TV show that people sort of grew up with, right? And they like to watch that TV show over and over. Do you guys have that? For me personally, The Simpsons, King of the Hill, I've seen almost all the episodes of The Simpsons. I've seen every episode of King of the Hill probably a dozen times. I can probably quote every episode, and it's because it's my comfort show, right? I love that show, and I feel like I fit that category on YouTube for a lot of you. The reality is, I haven't grown on YouTube in like 6 years. Right, even though views are good and I'm able to pay my bills, in terms of sheer growth to the channel, I haven't experienced really any of it in ages, yet my views are still doing good, and oftentimes they get better and better, then they plateau off a bit, and then, things kind of progress from there. I owe virtually all of my success to having become part of this community early. I'm basically the old man who's been ranting about Activision for a decade, and somehow people find that comforting, and they watch whatever I upload. If I was just starting out in the Call of Duty YouTube scene, I wouldn't know where to begin. I would just be one in an endless sea of channels all uploading Call of Duty and trying to make it. The same goes for Twitch. There is a sea of people out there with one viewer or less grinding away 4 hours a day, 6 hours a day, 8 hours a day, all with the dream of making it on that platform while also enjoying their favorite video game franchise. Because so many people want to be a YouTuber, and because so many people want to be a live streamer these days, the overall sweatiness of COD has gone up exponentially. It's really hard to make interesting content if you're completely terrible at the game. It's not required that you be amazing, but it's hard to make a name for yourself if you're completely terrible, especially when people don't know who you are, right? You're just one of a million people out there uploading videos or trying to live stream. They don't know anything about you, and so gameplay is one thing that can kind of get your foot in the door. That's why you see people in your Cold War lobbies that have TTV in their names or TTV in their clan tags. It's because they're advertising their Twitch. They want this to go so well. They want to be good at the game. They want to be that gameplay guy, and that's why you see people using gold on their MP5 and still continuing to use it even during a double weapon XP event. It's because in their minds, the better they do, the better their YouTube channels and Twitch streams will do, but that isn't always necessarily the case. For me, for example, if I upload a good gameplay, no one cares, right? I'm not a gameplay guy, but Dismo, He's the gameplay guy, or he's a gameplay guy, but he's my personal favorite gameplay guy. I love watching Dismo. But if Dismo does a video sort of like what I do, it's still going to do well. His channel's amazing, but it may not do as good as his gameplay videos. People come to expect different things from different people, and it seems like a lot of people these days want to be the gameplay guy. So that's another reason why so many people are so sweaty within your Cold War lobbies. Now, of course, people chasing internet popularity is just one aspect of why casual Call of Duty doesn't really exist anymore. Going back to what I was discussing earlier, Call of Duty has been around for ages, and people on average have become pretty competent at it. In general, I would say people have gotten a lot better at video games over the past 10 years, right? It just seems to make sense. That's a very natural progression of things. This right here is a franchise that has been around for 17 years, and at some point, each of us picked up our first game of Call of Duty, and we've basically been playing ever since. By its very nature, an online first-person shooter is competitive. Whether or not people want to admit that, they are competitive games. It's you and your team versus the other team, and the goal is to do well. Now, obviously, we have things like challenges with bad guns, or, launcher challenges, or people who like to knife, or like to play certain goofy ways, but the bottom line remains the same. When we play an online video game against other people, we want to do well, right? We want to do better than the people on our team. We want to do better than the people on the other team. Who has fun going 0-30? Literally nobody has fun when they're doing exceptionally bad. And because the franchise has been around for so long, people are a lot better on average. This makes even casual playlists feel much sweatier than how they did back in the day. Back in the day, when I first started playing, everybody was basically just learning Call of Duty for the first time, whereas now, the franchise has been out for 17 years. Right? The average player is much better now than they were back then, and it's only going to get worse, if you want to look at it that way. It's only going to get worse as Call of Duty continues to put out a new game each and every year. More and more people are going to continue to play, more and more people are going to get better at the franchise, and the overall skill level of the player base is going to continue to rise no matter what we do. Now, going back to the exclusive Ace clip for a moment here, I am dumbfounded that players like this still exist, and it's nothing personal against any of these players whatsoever, but I wasn't even that bad when I started playing Medal of Honor European Assault back in the day, but then again, every person and every player is different. I'm not saying that I want to play against people like this that literally have no idea what's going on, because it's more rewarding to do well against people who are actually shooting back and have some semblance of what's going on, but this definitely appears to confirm that there are protected brackets within the matchmaking system that will save horrible players from being destroyed by seasoned veterans. Is this necessarily a bad thing? I actually would say no. No, this is not necessarily a bad thing, but I will say this. Call of Duty was a lot more fun, a lot more rewarding, and a lot more engaging when matchmaking was solely based on connection. Time was, back in the day, you would join a lobby with 11 other random people from your general area, and the skill levels in that lobby would vary wildly. From there, the game would divide the two completely random teams based on their skill levels and try to make the team balancing somewhat fair, and then you played the game. As a new player back in Call of Duty 4, I remember falling in love with the franchise because I was bad at it. I enjoyed the theme of the game. I enjoyed the look of the weapons and how they sounded. It was amazing to me because, again, I didn't have internet until I was 13 years old. I started playing COD when I was 16 years old, so I grew up playing games like Medal of Honor European Assault and Medal of Honor Rising Sun, single player, right? I'm just doing these campaigns, and to me, it was mind-blowing that I could play basically those games, but online with and against other people. It was amazing. I fell in love right away. But holy hell was I bad. I was absolutely awful, and I enjoyed watching myself improve. I would get completely destroyed with my 0.7 kill-death ratio, but I also wasn't an idiot. Right? I'm a lot of things, but I'm not necessarily an idiot. I would see people on my team and people on the other team doing well, and I would think to myself, how in the world are they doing that? How are they so much better at this game than I am? And I would try to learn from watching those other players. I would watch my kill cams. I would notice in the kill feed what the best players were using, what weapons and things like that. I would see where they were running, and eventually that translated over into me watching YouTube. I would watch people like Hutch, Wings of Redemption, Excalizors, and Blame Truth on YouTube, and my mind would be blown watching their gameplay and seeing how good they were and the playstyles that they would use. I would then implement some of the stuff that I learned from their videos into my own game, and over time, I saw myself go from constantly going negative to only sometimes going negative. Most of the time, I was going close to even. Then eventually, I was going slightly positive. Then eventually, I got to the point where I was that guy. the guy that I was always watching on YouTube, or the guys I would see in my lobbies that were constantly calling in attack helicopters and having a 2+ KD, eventually I became that player. And it's because I put in the time, and it's because I was passionate about the game, right? That's why I got better, and I don't think that newer fans will be able to experience the same growth that I did as a player. I just don't think they will, because with skill-based matchmaking, and especially the kind that we have here in Black Ops Cold War, you aren't rewarded for getting better. If anything, you're punished for getting better. Back in the day, you would be rewarded because matchmaking was pretty much random. It was connection-based above all else, and if you were an above-average player, then you would oftentimes do above average, right? These days, however, if you're an above-average player, you're mostly only playing against people of a similar skill level, even if it means your connection's not going to be all that good. If you're a lower skill player, the game is basically going to hold your hand and only let you play against other people of a lower skill level. This means that even if you start doing well in your lower skill lobbies, soon enough you're going to be punished for that, because you're going to be thrown up into the next echelon of skill-based matchmaking, and then suddenly the skills that you developed against bad players won't be working anymore. You'll then probably get knocked around for a while until eventually you get thrown back into the previous bracket of skill-based matchmaking, and then continue the process from there on out. What made Call of Duty so great back in the day was putting your skills up against random people and seeing your average performance improve slowly over time. That can't really be done at this day and age. You sort of plateau where the game wants you to plateau, and to make the leap from low skill player to high skill player is going to feel a lot like ranked play in other video games, right? Let's say you start off as a bronze and you want to go all the way up to platinum. It's going to take you a long time. You have to basically grind out in bronze for a while, then grind out in silver for a while, then grind out in gold for a while, and take every victory and every setback with a grain of salt, because the matchmaking is literally holding you back at that point. As the title of this video implies, casual Call of Duty is dead. There is no singular reason, but obviously skill-based matchmaking has a lot to do with it. There are many other reasons, which I also discuss here in this video, but I honestly feel like to enjoy the franchise going forward, we are all just going to have to accept the fact that we are never going to be able to relive the old days of matchmaking and fun that we had in games like Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare 2, the original Black Ops, Modern Warfare 3, or even Black Ops 2. There is still plenty of fun to be had with the franchise, and yes, matches like you've been watching throughout this video are going to happen, even with how strong skill-based matchmaking is here within Black Ops Cold War. The reason why these matches happened is partly because I've been playing the franchise for so long, but also I was trying my damnedest. So obviously my aim isn't perfect. Obviously I make plenty of mistakes. I'm human, right? But I'm an above average player, and when I really, really want to try at it, I can typically do pretty well here in the Call of Duty franchise, but having to try so hard, so consistently for so long can definitely weigh on you after a while. It's not the same casual, relaxing experience it used to be. It feels much more now like I'm playing ranked mode, even though I'm just trying to level up my guns playing the Nuketown playlist. I was happy that I was actually able to get a number of chopper gunners on Nuketown, because it was sort of a nostalgic way of reliving the original Black Ops game, which is my personal favorite Call of Duty title of all time. But I was happy with these scores. I was happy with these matches here, and it's because I had to try ridiculously hard to get them, and now that I got them, skill-based matchmaking is probably going to punish me tomorrow when I sign in, because they're going to think I'm a higher skill player than I actually am on average, because I was putting up above average scores. The days of being able to put up scores like this while also relaxing are pretty much in the past. Casual Call of Duty will never be the same ever again, as much as it pains me to say that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. I feel like I basically wrote you guys an essay for this video, but it's something that I feel as though needed to be put out there, and now that it is, I think I'm going to go back to Black Ops Cold War and continue on, not taking the game as seriously or worrying as much about the matchmaking system. It is what it is, I suppose. It's always been a very hot topic within the community ever since Advanced Warfare, but we have to accept the fact that it's not going anywhere. It makes Activision way too much money, and for that reason, if I'm going to have any fun with Call of Duty going forward, I need to relax and just accept the fact that matchmaking is the way that it is. And it's sort of ironic, isn't it, that the game is designed from the ground up to be as sweaty and as competitive as possible for everybody, ranging across all skill levels, and the only way to enjoy that sweaty/competitive atmosphere is to just not care as much. Don't overthink it, just don't care. Just play the game, do whatever. You know, you would think that Activision would find that to be counterproductive, making players who care most about the franchise care even less, But who knows? It seems to be working for them. All I know is I really enjoy Black Ops Cold War. I think the game has a ton of flaws and a lot of balance issues, but overall, I find that the game is really enjoyable, and I'm excited for the next year of content to release, and I'm excited to experience the game as it progresses all throughout 2021. I'll be here with you guys every step of the way, making videos, covering news, obviously making rants, because that's mostly what I seem to do these days, and doing a bunch of other things as well. But I think I can finally put the topic of skill-based matchmaking to rest, because I don't think there is anything more I can say about it. Knowing Activision, there will likely be some sort of a scandal or some news that is going to come out about skill-based matchmaking in the future. It's always going to be a popular topic here within the community, but who knows? As always, we are just going to have to wait and see how everything is going to play out. But until then, I'm going to wrap things up here. I hope you guys all enjoyed today's video. If you did, consider leaving a like, leave your thoughts and feedback down in the comments. Thank you all so much for listening, and I hope you guys all have a wonderful day.